So we were discussing yesterday how to discover the fearlessness which is most desirable. The fear alone expresses in the form of anxiety, stress, worry, affecting the mental health and then physical health, connected. Very important from the worldly aspect, but really speaking from the spiritual aspect, that fearlessness is called moksha. Fearlessness is a freedom from fear. Freedom from fear is centered on oneself. Freedom from insecurity is centered on oneself, which we'll be discussing tomorrow, but I'm just saying, abhayam pratishtham vindate. Pratishtha, abidance, but really not abidance. One abides in fearlessness. What is this? Fearlessness is a nature of oneself, and therefore there is no question of one is abiding in fearlessness which is different from oneself. No. And therefore the better word for pratishtha is a discovery. Discovering fearlessness. One sees oneself free from fear, free from insecurity. That is the goal. It's a human goal. One cannot deny it. No one can deny. Not knowing this, one may employ various means in the world, thinking that gaining securities is ultimately making me free from insecurity, which is never the case. Never the case. Gaining money generally. Money means security. Gaining money, one will become secure. Never the case. More the money, more insecurity, in fact. So the fearlessness, etc., or freedom from insecurity is not centered on object. That's for sure. Then the very desire to become free from insecurity is a wrong desire. It's not a wrong desire, it's a natural desire. Natural desire must have a solution. Your cultivated desire may not have a solution. I may cultivate a desire to go in SpaceX mission, and I call Elon Musk, please take me. He said, Swami, do your job. Yeah, drop the desire. Cultivated desire may not have a solution. I may have a desire to buy a Mercedes. You said, Swami, better you do your job. But you cannot remove this desire. The struggle to gain security in one's life continues throughout the life. Therefore, there must be a solution. If there is no solution, this creation is not intelligent. But this is Ishvara's creation, very intelligent. There are means to fulfill the desire. Means is understanding oneself as security. Security is something which is not sought in the objects. Every object is insecure, bound in time, cannot give you security. Itself is insecure. How will it give you security? Common sense. What is the source of security will give you security. If itself is insecure, how will it give you? In fact, you worry about the money rather than money has a worry about you. Yeah, that shows it. This is all Maya. This is called Maya. Where you think ulta. This is how it is. And we will be discussing that tomorrow. But I just introduced that fear is something, that's a word which indicates everything that I am afraid of. What I am afraid of is another factor. Another factor. Whether there is another factor or not, that's a question. And so fear of separation, fear of unhappiness, fear of rejection, fear of success, failure, fear of losing a job, fear of anything, fear of loneliness, fear of being isolated. Yeah, Swamiji, I have been isolated. They have formed a group, I was not included in the group, this, that, so much. The solution is Vedanta. Solution is just Vedanta. Psychology cannot provide the solution. Cannot. Even though psychology itself will be saying it's a manifestation of Ishvara, but it doesn't have a solution. Solution is lying somewhere else. Anyway, so fear of isolation, fear of being nobody, fear of lack of future, etc., etc., fear of death, fear of void, I told you yesterday also. And to handle those fears, the immediate thing is, the solution is twofold. One is the prayer. Prayer is the most efficacious action because your free will is totally free. Where your free will is free, the action based on that free will, which is free, is the most efficacious action. Generating punyam, removing these hidden variables which create a fear in you. And the second thing is, after doing a prayer, there is an auto-suggestion, which also is a very useful tool. A human mind has the capacity to take the suggestions, right? We have that capacity. If you want to catch a flight at 6 o'clock from San Francisco, and you don't have an alarm clock, you say to yourself before going to bed, get up at 4 o'clock. I tell you, you will get up. Without clock, there is a biological clock. That's auto-suggestion, in fact. It's an auto-suggestion. And therefore, there is an auto-suggestion here after every prayer. What kind of prayer also I told you yesterday, I need not repeat. And there is auto-suggestion that, I'm getting more and more. My mind is becoming more and more stronger in order to get rid of this fear, because fear is basically a sign of a weak mind. Whether you imagine a fear or whether the situation is really going to come, ultimately you are not able to face that itself is a weakness. Either a weak mind also imagines a lot of fear, and a weak mind is not able to face a certain real situations also. So the solution is this, making yourself stronger through the prayer and auto-suggestion, and thereby one becomes relatively free. Relatively, not absolutely. No, there is an issue, something else, which will bring up this fear again and again, but you will be relatively free from the fear. Then the second thing we discussed is fear of death need not be taking into account the scientific world, scientific inventions, that nothing dies. Nothing dies. They say the amount of the water, amount of the earth, everything, amount of the air, amount is all remains same. That could be transformation from one form to the other, that is there. But there is nothing called decimation of a thing. Totally become non-existent, totally disappears from the world. That is never be the case. Science also tells it, it is proven now. And therefore, the death of my body, I feel I will be decimated. I will never appear again. With the death of the body, I will also disappear. No. So it's not actually a fear of a death, it's fear of decimation. No one likes to be decimated. You love existence because you are existence. One loves existence because one is existence. Yeah. Therefore, I never like to be non-existence. And you are not. Everything is in a cycle. It's a manifestation to unmanifestation, unmanifestation to manifestation. There is nothing called non-existence in the world. That also we discussed, right? And then we said, fear of death, etc. Again, we are discussing tomorrow. But there are so many other fears which I said you has a basis in a childhood. The first 4.5 to 5 years is basically a core person. That's where basically a person is formed. And those 4.5 or 5 years is a very critical years for a child, human child especially, because human being a living being, it has an instinct to survive, but a human child is totally helpless. It doesn't know anything. Whatever it wants to convey to the parents, it only knows the language of crying. And sometimes mom also doesn't understand, dad also doesn't understand. They understand by the time child has cried so much, undergone pain so much. Anyway, so that total helplessness is there, instinct to survive is there, and therefore Ishvara has done this arrangement that human child has a total trust in the one who is taking care of itself. So total helplessness is basically compensated by the total trust in the one who takes care of it. And well, that's how it grows. But its trust gets violated here and there all the time. In fact, I told you the instances also. And various things are there. There are clashes between the parents, and there is violence and everything. I don't want to go to the American society where all these things are more predominant compared to the Indian society, where the child is not taken care of. The sense of isolation, sense of loneliness comes from all this. Sense of being separated comes from all this. Because in the nuclear family, sometimes mom doesn't care. It allows the child to cry. It keeps crying. And mom remains busy with something else. Child wants attention. That's how it is. Because it's totally helpless. So the parents have to basically talk to the child eye to eye and show that yes, you are welcome guest in our life. If you don't show like that, Duryodhana can be born. Yeah. Duryodhana is born that way. Father is blind, cannot see eye to eye to the children. But mother also unfortunately decides. That's it. Now only Kauravas are born. Yeah. It's unconscious, basically. But fortunately, this is all in a conscious mind of the child. But the child basically being totally helpless, and this kind of a pain, anger, fear, if it remains in a conscious mind, the child will die. It's horrible. Day by day these things are happening. And well, it's a Ishvara's arrangement to cover it. Conscious, what is there in conscious mind becomes unconscious. That's avarana. Avarana, vikshepa, we all the time learn. This is avarana, in fact. Yeah. And child also has of course it goes to unconscious, and therefore child's conscious mind is saved. Child is a survivor. And then, well, after that, has a vikshepa also. It has so much insight to cry, right? But doesn't cry. Why? It wants to win the trust of mother. Mother has told, don't cry. Don't cry. The way she tells create more fear, in fact. Yeah. And if it cries, sometimes they beat. Cry more, beat more. This is unfortunate. This is how human life starts. Starts with a total security when it was in a womb of a mother. Totally connected. It's an independent life there. An individual in individual, right? Totally connected. Once it is separated, snapped, starts independent life with a total helplessness. That's where issue starts. And nobody is an exception, by the way. Everybody has unconscious. I'm going to prove it. Even when one becomes adult, our all responses in the world is not from the conscious mind. In a conscious mind, one may have all wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita, Kameshaha, Krodeshaha, Rajoguna, Samudbhavaha. This anger and all this is bad, right? Everything is there. But what responds is the emotional person, which has a basis in this core person, the child, the frozen child. All our responses, once we respond, then we realize it was a wrong. While responding, we are not conscious. Anger is not a conscious response. Fear is not a conscious response. No one wants to be deliberately become fearful. You cannot become fearful. Try. You want to become consciously angry. Try. Even child knows if a father deliberately becomes angry and tries to say something, even child will laugh and runs remain with that. But when the father really becomes angry, the child will run away. So even it could sense, even the child could sense that my father is really not angry. So if you deliberately become angry, even child will understand. Yeah. So basically my point is, so the unconscious manifest when it becomes adult and controls this adult in varieties of the situation, in this giving responses. You have to relate. Yeah. Goal of life is to live, and live is to relate. Yeah. Otherwise one can be alive in a sleeping, once you sleep, you are alive. You are in a coma, you are alive, but you are not living a life. Living a life means you are relating to the world. In relating, you are responding. And whole your responses comes from unconscious. Only you respond and then you realize it is. You victimize the world by your anger, by your fear, by your jealousy. All unconscious. So one has to process and become relatively free from emotions, free from fear, etc. So that is what we are discussing. So anyway, and I said how to handle, because basically your trust was violated with your parents. Total trust was the child put, but it was violated. So now you have to, as an adult, you have to find some parents, right, which is all-knowing, which is all omnipotent, which is all pervading, so that in your awareness, those parents can remain and you remain secure. And that's the only entity that is Ishvara, who is parent, who is a Janaka and Janani both, right? Yeah. That's how all gods are married. All. Yeah. Nobody is a sannyasi god, okay? All gods are married. It may be Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, anybody. Even Ganapati, Riddhi, Siddhi. All. What about Hanumanji? Give an exception. But not, at least he is not a sannyasi, he is brahmachari. But most of our gods are along with the power. Janaka and Janani. Material cause, efficient cause. Purusha and Prakriti, whatever. One alone. Abhinna Nimittopada. So this is also a level of Vedanta. Ultimately that Ishvara is myself, I am the Vivartopadana Karanam. It's fine. Let us handle the first layer. That's fine. We'll be talking tomorrow. But this one, at this level, at least let us become a emotionally healthy, mature person. Then I will be able to appreciate ultimately a total identity with the Ishvara. And so this is all a part of a preparation, basically, where you handle your own emotions. You don't victimize anybody. You handle in such a way that you yourself are a therapist for your taking help of Ishvara. So Ishvara is the greatest therapist, by the way. But you take his help and handle your emotions with a sympathy, love, etc. And this is our vision of the Ishvara. So it is not, Ishvara is not a belief. Ishvara is, we have a faith in Ishvara. No. That's our religion is not a faith, by the way. Not a faith. Ishvara is a matter of understanding. I would not say object of understanding. Otherwise, after the class, somebody will say, Swamiji is not an object. He is a subject. He is subject, object, both. But right now, I'm taking myself as an individual who has all these issues. So I'm taking his help other than myself. You take it. It's a model, basically. Nothing to, don't emphasize. Ultimately, Vedanta's vision is everything is consciousness. That's not vision. Honestly, I'm telling you. Everything is Ishvara is a vision. That's a wholeness. Yeah. Not rejecting. This is mithya, that is mithya. All is manifestation of Ishvara. Whatever type of manifestation, less real, this real, that real, mithya, whatever. What is Ishvara is the vision. Is the vision. In which you are also included. Yeah. There's a vision of wholeness. Generally, this Vedantin will have Saguna Brahma, Nirguna Brahma, this Brahma, that Brahma. Forget about that. There is nothing else. Whatever is Ishvara. That's the vision. What you experience is also Ishvara. The very experience are also Ishvara. But right now, we want to understand Ishvara. What is Ishvara? So it's not a matter of belief. It's an object of basically understanding. If Ishvara is a matter of belief, well, you will feel insecure. You want others also to believe that. That's how when such type of systems where they try to basically convert others, yeah, to make them believe what they believe also. Then you feel secure. Like an alcoholic person, you know. An alcoholic person he is the one who is really doing this conversion job. Yeah. He cannot handle this person who is sober. He wants him that he should also take a drink. So he says, come on, this is not a 13th century. This is the 21st century. Nothing happens. See, this person is a religious person, but he also takes. That person is a religious person, he also takes. Why don't you also take? And moreover, I tell you, your health will improve. Yeah. If you take it whole, your gut will become so clean from the bugs. And so he takes a cup of, a bowl of alcohol, puts a worm in that, and worm dies. Look. So whatever is there inside will become clean. Take it. Yeah. So this also, Ishvara is a matter of belief. They will convert. Ishvara is a matter of understanding. We'll be seeing that. So, what is Ishvara? That's an equation, in fact. What is means this Jagat is Ishvara is an equation. Equation is not to be believed, equation is to be understood. What Vedanta reveals is all equations. Veda talks about equations. Veda doesn't talk about beliefs. Anyway, so it is our responsibility on the part of the human being basically to understand what is Ishvara. And well, Swamiji, but I don't agree with you. Because what is means this world, I don't think anything is Ishvara here. Right? So basically what I experience, I take it as a Jagat, but I won't take it as a Ishvara. That's one can ask. Well, that's true. But what you experience may not be true. If you analyze the experience, then your real understanding of thing can come. Yeah. Sometimes what you experience, but still you are really not gaining the truth of that thing. Pujya Swamiji used to give an example about the person. He was traveling from Chennai to Delhi. and there was a person along with him, in the very, very bulky fellow, Australian. And he was in the middle seat, Swamiji was in the last seat, the 3 seat. And he was so bulky that he, lived at rest. And part of that person was on Pujya Swamiji. Swamiji was experiencing constantly here. And that person had picked up a conversation with Swamiji once the flight, started, boarded and that he knows that he's a Swami. So he said, well, I am also going to Rishikesh. Via Delhi, I am going to Rishikesh and I am going to meet some Swami. Oh, which Swami you want to meet? So he pulled out a cheat and showed Swami Dayananda, Purani Rishikesh. And then Swamiji said, well, that's me. Oh, that's you? Oh, see, the world is very small, etc. Swamiji said, yes, it is very true. I am experiencing the world is very small. What you experience, still you remain dumb. He was experiencing Swami Dayananda. Didn't know he's Swami Dayananda. And therefore what I experience is this Jagat, inert, cold, uncaring world. This is a definition nowadays. Inert, cold, uncaring. Cold not in terms of temperature, cold in terms of warmth. No, Swamiji, no warmth of feelings, nothing here, Swamiji. No love. Cold, uncaring world. You call it as a Ishvara? Well, that's we have to analyze what you experience. Yeah. Then you come to know the truth. In fact, the truth may be just contrary to what you experience. What you experience is something very inert, etc. But once you analyze, it will be something which is just contrary. You experience sunrise, there is no sunrise. If you analyze. You experience blue sky, there is no blue sky. You experience red sky, blue sky, yellow sky. There is no blue sky, red sky. There is no sky. There is no dough. Blue ocean, there is no blue ocean. Twinkle stars, there are no twinkle stars. What you experience is one thing. When you analyze, you find contrary. You find earth, you experience earth is stationary and sun is moving from east to west. The reality is sun is stationary, earth is moving. You know how it is. So you experience this cold, inert world. When you analyze, you find all that is there is Ishvara. That's the equation we have to understand. So my understanding of who is Ishvara, etc. should be so thorough and complete that I cannot get away from the presence of Ishvara in order to solve the issue with the parents, right? That from the child's awareness, the parents basically have proven that they are not trustworthy, they are not able to take care of the child, etc. So once you understand that, the complete understanding of Ishvara, etc. is there, then definitely your journey is complete. You are really living a life in which you relate to the world, relating in such a manner that you don't victimize with your frozen child, which is there inside, with your responses of the frozen child. Then goal is complete of the life. So Ishvara is one in whom you can definitely relax, you can feel secure. Well, I am not alienated from this Janani and Janaka because they are all pervading. So before our birth also we were feeling totally secure. We were not alienated. I was not alienated from mother. I was in the womb of the mother, totally connected, feeling secure. Well, same thing as an adult I can feel with these parents. Well, in my awareness, I am all the time connected to Ishvara, who is Janani and Janaka, both. Anyway, I mean, this is what we have to understand. And therefore, now the first thing is, my pratigna, that opening statement is, all that is here is Ishvara. We have to understand this is a vision unfolded by the Vedanta. In my understanding, well, definitely that I, Ishvara, and the world, everything is different, which is really not correct. So Vedanta is basically a vision. It's not a philosophy of some person, founder of. You won't find a founder of Vedanta. There is no founder of Vedanta. So it's a vision, basically, vision of the reality. And therefore, all this, there is a God. God is He, and well, He is located somewhere in the heaven, etc. All this basically are not correct. Upanishad reveals that all that is here, all that you experience, is Ishvara. So in this, well, you don't have anything to contend actually. Well, only thing you can ask is prove it. Because it's an equation. All that is here is Ishvara. The space and all elements, all the forms are Ishvara. That's an equation. And that equation has to be proven. Yeah. Equation is to be proven. It's not a matter of a contention here. It's a matter of understanding. So you can't say, I believe it. It's not a matter of belief. What? Because here all that is there is what is known and unknown. What you are aware of, something is unknown. Certain things are not known to you, you are aware of. Certain things are known to you, you are aware of. All that is known and unknown is Ishvara. Does it include me or not? Definitely. Because all that exists is Ishvara, then if you want to get included, you should also exist. If you have a doubt that, I exist, if you have a doubt, then I will have to give you some more arguments that you do exist. But I'm sure that you don't have at least this much doubt that you exist. So when I say all that is Ishvara, all that exists is Ishvara, then definitely you are also included. You also exist. You are also included in the Ishvara. You means your body, your mind, your senses, your memory, right? Everything, your hunger, thirst, everything what is here is Ishvara. Because that is also what we experience. As we experience the world, we experience our own body, we experience our own mind, we experience our own emotions, we experience our memory, we experience our hunger, thirst, everything. We experience our digestion, etc., everything. We experience our senses. So that also should be included in that. Ishvara pervades all the way. Anyway, so we don't have any basis to contend with this. Only thing is we can say it is not proven, or I can say, I'm not able to understand what you say. That's fine. If it is not understood, it's not an issue. This is a thing to be understood. And, definitely. So I don't want you to believe God for God's sake at least. Please don't believe. Yeah. Okay. Did your grandfather, grandmother exist? First thing. How can you say they exist? You have never seen great-grandfather. You have never seen. The way whatever you see, you don't see. You say all that is here. When I say Ishvara, you say I don't see. I see world. I don't see Ishvara. Therefore I don't believe, etc. I don't take it as Ishvara. Your grandfather, great-grandfather exist or not? You say they existed, means you must have seen. Will you believe that? Swamiji, but I believe that they existed. If it is a belief, then definitely it is a subject to correction. Any belief is a subject to correction. Yeah. So if, great-grandfather existed is a belief, because you have not seen. So means you say, I have to believe that they existed. If it is a belief, then will definitely, it's a subject to correction. And what is the correction? They did not exist. There is no third option. They existed is a belief. Then what is a correction? Belief means it is subject to correction. What is then what is a corrected version? They did not exist. Is there a third option? Can you say? Is there a third option? They did not exist. And if you say great-grandfather did not exist, is it a truth? The very fact that I exist itself is a proof for their existence. Of great-grandfather, great-grandmother, the cause, etc. of me. Same way you don't see your brain. And therefore you say, will you say I don't have a brain? Or you will say that, Swamiji, I have a brain, I believe. Will you say that? No. You may say, occasionally I feel that my brain exists. That's a different issue. Because I think of occasionally, and therefore you may say. So certain thing you don't see, therefore it doesn't exist. That's not a contention. That kind of a thing is not true. In fact, my great-grandfather, great-grandmother existed is not a belief, it's a understanding, it's a knowledge. The proof for that is me, right? So same way, the cause of this world, great-grandfather, grandmother, the cause of this world exists also is not a matter of belief. It is to be understood. The very fact Well, I am the effect of my great grandfather. When I exist, well, they exist, the cause exists. Same way here also, the very effect basically is never away from the cause, and therefore the material cause. And well, Ishvara being the material cause and the efficient cause, well, definitely where the material is, there the cause is. Where the effect is, there the material is. And Ishvara being the material cause also is right there. Now we have to understand how. So basically, you take a shirt. This shirt is, its effect is not away from the cause called fabric. Even a number 2, which is formed by two things, 1 plus 1, 2. That 2 is never away from the 1, the cause. 2 is the effect. Yeah. So the creation, Srishti, the Jagat, well, is intelligently put together, like our own creation, human creation called microphone, etc., is intelligently put together. Please understand this. This is a very serious thing. Intelligently put together, table intelligently put together, human creation. Same way this creation, Jagat, also is intelligently put together. And why it is, we are saying intelligently put together, not just put together. Like a shirt, suppose. Let us take that example. Shirt, Swamiji, is nothing but, the fabric, you cut it and stitch it. That's what it is, Swamiji. There's nothing else. No. Cut and stitched intelligently. Otherwise, you will make the sleeves, sleeves. And after making the sleeves, you stitch here itself. Close this end. That will never happen, because basically that this should be kept open, otherwise the hand cannot go. So it is cut and stitch, etc., intelligently. That's very true. So, well, anything that is created to serve a purpose is intelligently put together, intelligently made, and that reveals that it presupposes a knowledge. Anything which is intelligently put together presupposes knowledge. Right? And apply this Vyapti now to this birth of the child. A body which is intelligently put together presupposes knowledge. Knowledge of whom? Knowledge of father and mother. Knowledge of father and mother give rise to the body. Means, do you think the mother has a knowledge of how to make the eyes? Or father has a knowledge of how to make the kidneys? Or there should be a spare kidney, etc. also father was knowing and then he made it? No. They themselves got the body, right? Well, therefore, this knowledge of a body, of a baby, is not with the parents. Then grandparents, Swami. The grandparents themselves have a body. So, this body which is serving a very good purpose, which is intelligently put together, there is no doubt about it. Go and ask to any doctor. Which is intelligently put together, which is serving a purpose, definitely presupposes knowledge. Knowledge of whom and where it is lying. That's where the issue. Knowledge of whom? Naturally, knowledge of some all-knowing Ishvara. Naturally. Knowledge of some who is omniscient. And definitely, you must be where the knowledge is, there it's, where the body is, there itself the knowledge is. Body is made from what? Body is made from stem cells, Swamiji. Stem cells has the knowledge. If you ask to a doctor, they will tell you, stem cells are nothing but a bunch of cells. They themselves divides into liver, etc. Cell of liver and cell of brain and everything. So the knowledge must be lying in the stem cell itself. If you analyze further, the stem cell has the knowledge, that form. If you analyze stem cell, well, you find a genes, right? Gene has knowledge. If you go further, all the way it is knowledge. All the way it is knowledge. Gene means what? Knowledge. You go and ask in departments, university departments. My God, genetics and genetic engineering and what not they are saying. So stem cell, a form, has the knowledge. Well, if you analyze further, well, genes, knowledge. Genes has the knowledge. Well, you analyze further, molecules, amino acids, etc. we say. I think you know all this, so I'm just saying. So gene has a lot of chain of amino acids. Amino acids, molecules. Molecules has knowledge. Molecules, if you further analyze, you find atoms. All forms, please understand. All the varieties of the forms for which you give a name, atom, molecule, gene, etc. That form has knowledge. And then particles, ultimately. All the way it is knowledge. Knowledge of making the body is not coming down from some heaven. It's right there. It's right there. But Swamiji, where the consciousness is, where the knowledge is, there the consciousness is. Knowledge can never be independent of consciousness. In knowledge there is consciousness. Any knowledge cannot be away from consciousness. Pot knowledge, we call it as a pot consciousness. Right? A name and form pot plus consciousness is called pot knowledge. So the all-knowing conscious being, the Ishvara, was knowledge manifest in forms. In form of particles, atoms, molecules. Please understand this. Atoms, molecules, genes, all intelligently put together. Please understand. Intelligently put together. Yeah. Anything intelligently put together involves a conscious being whose knowledge alone manifests. We give different names, that's fine. One form, gene. We have given name gene, but that is intelligently put together. That's knowledge. Ishvara's knowledge. So what you call Jagat, various names and forms, which is nothing but a manifestation of all-knowing Ishvara. The very material cause for the world, various forms. The material for various forms is nothing but this knowledge. The knowledge rests in a conscious being, all-knowing conscious being, who alone manifests in the form of this Jagat. So where the creation, I will explain you further, Swamiji, we are not happy. I will be explaining you, don't worry. So where the creation is, there the knowledge is. That's called Ishvara. And perhaps hurriedly let me give you example so that at least you can start comparing. Whole your world, the dream world, is nothing but your knowledge. You, the conscious being, well, with your so-called knowledge, make the dream world. You are the maker. You are the material. Every form in a dream world is your knowledge. You see some person, is your knowledge. Right? You are the maker as a conscious being, and your knowledge is a material. So you pervade the entire dream world. Where the dream space is, that's where you are. Where the dream time, that's where you are. In fact, your manifestation, your knowledge manifestation, that's very material. Just for your, because that's where you will be able to relate it. That's how I'm giving you this example a little hurriedly, whether it's coming a little late, but just to appreciate it, what I'm saying. Anyway, so what is Ishvara now? You can understand. What is Ishvara? All the forms, well, it's nothing but Ishvara's knowledge. Ishvara's, who is a material cause alone, manifest in these forms. So very fact is only a form and a name, of course, and the form, of course, we call it as a name, we call it as a word, form we call it as a meaning, like the word pot, and the form, pot form, that's its meaning. And that's how we are able to define something as a pot, something as a a jar. Like, in case of even though material is one, like fabric, something you call is a shirt. So this you will not call this as a shirt. This is a form. You will not call it as a shirt because you know what is shirt. You know what is sherwani, jabba. You know what is pajama. You know what is dhoti. You know. So every form is associated with what? Knowledge. You define. So even if I tell you, Swamiji, all of you, I will tell you that this is a shirt. Swamiji, what are you saying? This is called a jibba. Means a form is known to you. The knowledge is associated with it. You have defined it. So that is how basically every form is a knowledge. Anyway, so let's now, and where the knowledge is, there the consciousness is. I'm not going, it's one more step. I'm not going to consciousness. I'm stopping at this level. So let us stop at this level of knowledge. But all the way, the space, time, all forms, everything is just knowledge. And now come to this physical body again. A physical body, knowledge. Intelligently put together, knowledge. And a physical law by which this is working, I will explain you what is this physical law, etc., is also knowledge. A biological organism, knowledge, etc. And a law of cell biology, everything is basically Ishvara's manifestation, Ishvara's knowledge manifest. So what is Jagat is all knowledge alone manifest in the form of this Jagat, including this body. In fact, body is a word, and its meaning, this we call, which is intelligently put together. Frankly speaking, there is no body. You reduce the body, then you will not use the body henceforth. If I reduce this body, don't physically, but you reduce the body into parts, you will say it's a limb, maybe brain, maybe a spinal cord, etc. So you will not call it as a body, hence. Otherwise, suppose if you remove my leg, just if you remove amputated leg, right? That amputated leg, you will call it as amputated leg. You will not call it body. Otherwise, I can marry to a amputated leg also. I'm married to a body. Instead, I can be married. You can understand how, what a mithya. You call body, once you analyze, the word body itself disappears. You use it in transaction. What is intelligently put together, these limbs which are intelligently put together, you call body. If you just analyze it, here itself, it's gone. So any limb, you don't call it as a body. A pair of eyes, you don't call body. Pair of eyes is available in the eye bank. If I don't find a proper spouse, I can marry to eye bank. So that's also a body. It's not a body. You are not understanding, Swami. All this you should put together. Bring from anatomy department. Bring from anatomy department all these things, brain and this and legs and hands, and pile it. Will you call body? Please tell me. No. Even though it's a pile put together, it's not body. Only one thing by which you call body is a body. Intelligently put together. Therefore, body is what? Knowledge. Yes, correct. Ishvara has put together intelligently. So from somewhere he imported, from China he imported brain, from this he imported legs and everything, and then intelligently put together. Right? We do assembly. The very brain is intelligently put together. Right? Very brain is intelligently put together. Cells and neurons, etc., intelligently put together. A pile of cells and neurons is not a brain. Intelligently put together. Understand now, every form is a knowledge. Ishvara's knowledge. Oh, sorry, but then cells he must have imported. The very cell is intelligently put together. You know, there are components of the cell which are intelligently put together, cell nucleus, etc., and cell wall, and in between, all intelligently put together. You understand, I don't know cell biology, but You go, then they will say the cell is also intelligently put together. So another form, cell, intelligently put together, knowledge. So all the way Ishvara's knowledge, molecules, I'm not going. All the way this body is nothing but, this form is nothing but Ishvara's knowledge. Everything is intelligently put together. So far Jagat, which is nothing but names and forms, is nothing but Ishvara's knowledge. Ishvara alone is the material cause. His knowledge is the material cause. He alone, in the form of this knowledge, manifest in the form of this Jagat. Right? Of course, names we give naturally because we want to transact. One form transact with another form. Then there should be name. Otherwise, that one calls this called that. You will have to say pronoun. So you use the proper nouns. Oh, Swami called. Swami Muktatmanda called somebody else. Some name. So for transaction purpose, you name them. That's that. But every form, the material for every form is just knowledge. Knowledge of all-knowing Ishvara. That is why you go more and more, you find specialization. Just physician for the body is one thing. But then you just go inside, you have a specialty now. Kidney specialist and heart specialist and this. Further also in that there are specialists. So it reveals that how much knowledge it is. Still we are not complete with the understanding of the body. It's going on. Then understand, so this is the Ishvara's manifestation. Every form is Ishvara's manifestation in form of knowledge. That is the material. And he being a conscious being, he is a maker also. So he is the maker and material. The whole world is Ishvara. Am I right? Whole world is Ishvara. Swami, but we are not thorough with that. That takes time. Yeah, a physics professor teaches, E is equal to mc square. This energy is nothing but a matter, matter is energy, etc. Perhaps even if I am a MSc student, MSc physics, it may take some time perhaps to understand it. But there is nothing to believe here. There is nothing to believe here. The whole creation is Ishvara, is also equation. The energy is matter, is equation. Same way this creation is Ishvara, is also equation. I cannot tell to a physics professor, well, I don't understand what you say, but I am very faithful to you, and so whatever you are writing and telling me, I am believing it. He says, better not believe me. Right? That's an insult to the physics professor, by the way. Yeah. He will emphasize that you better understand, don't believe. Ishvara is a matter of understanding, not a matter of belief. All that you experience here, all that is there, which you experience is known and unknown, is Ishvara. This is what it is. Means definitely with this, the Ishvara is pervading everything. Your mind, Ishvara. Your body, Ishvara's knowledge, Ishvara. Everything, your senses, your prana, everything is Ishvara. You are totally pervaded by the Ishvara, which we call order. I will explain you that. So basically this created object being what it is, so Ishvara is in the form of this physical universe, physical order, biological order, living organisms, psychological order. There is epistemological order also, I will explain you. And most critical part for our discussion is a psychological order, because there we are discussing emotions, especially fear. So all this is a manifestation of ultimately Ishvara. So when I look at everything in this Jagat, which is given of course, and is intelligently put together, presupposing a knowledge, then assimilation of the concept that this knowledge definitely rests in a conscious being. No knowledge we have found in an inert thing. Knowledge always rests in a conscious being. Therefore, will this all knowledge, well, definitely reveals that it rests in a conscious being called Ishvara, who is all knowledge. So that is possible for us to know. So now I won't say further that there is someone called Ishvara somewhere located in some heaven, etc. Person may start with that, of course, but I grow in my understanding, and I say that Ishvara is both basically the material cause and the intelligent cause, and all that is here is non-separate from the Ishvara. That's of course a challenge to understand this, but there is nothing to believe here. Anyway, and so my understanding of Ishvara, well, definitely, then once you start understanding, then your understanding of Ishvara becomes more intimate, and well, I can keep moving more and more intimately towards Ishvara, because ultimately the distance between you and Ishvara is in terms of ignorance. More you understand, more you gather knowledge of Ishvara, which is pervaded like this in form of a body and etc., your ignorance goes away. The distance between you and Ishvara also slowly reduces. More you are in harmony with the Ishvara, more joy, more healthy in terms of your emotions, etc. All this will be there. So assimilating of Ishvara, before I go into that orders, I would like to say assimilating of this vision of Ishvara is not difficult, but at the same time it is not easy also. Well, but we have to do it, well, in an intelligent manner. Ishvara was manifest intelligently in form of the order, in form of laws, principles, in form of various things which are functioning, intelligently functioning, the whole thing. You have to understand, assimilate this vision of Ishvara by separating various orders. And the very first, you appreciate Ishvara in form of physical universe. Physical universe is easy to, like our physical body and physical objects. So that is how every pursuit of knowledge basically is an enthralling experience, because one is in touch with Ishvara's knowledge, Ishvara's mind. Yeah, it's Ishvara's mind. That is how any discovery, whenever anyone discovers, especially scientist discovers something, well, definitely he falls in harmony with the Ishvara. So he starts saying, Eureka, Eureka, Eureka. Yeah, Archimedes, you must have heard. He does a discovery, well, then definitely he came to know. In some physical law, which is a manifestation of Ishvara ultimately, his knowledge alone has manifested, and you have removed the ignorance and have come in contact with Ishvara's mind directly. And that's how any knowledge, when you, any discipline, any principle, when you understand, either in a biology, chemistry, physics, anywhere, in psychology, anywhere you understand any principle, any law, well, this is part of the manifestation, you definitely get a joy, because you are in, and that's a joy which is not a sense pleasure. Yeah, it's not a sense pleasure. Whenever you fall in harmony with the Ishvara, you have a joy. That's for sure. Yeah, and this is also a joy called Vidyananda. Yeah, more lasting, subtle joy, more aesthetic, yeah, compared to the sense pleasure. So anyway, so on understanding or knowing any principle, any knowledge, any discipline of knowledge, well, you are in harmony with the Ishvara, all-knowing conscious being. You are in harmony with that. You, the individual, is a simple conscious being coming in harmony with that, and that is giving you joy. Anyway, so Jagat is definitely a manifestation of knowledge, and that's why it is available for knowledge. Every object is available for knowledge. That's how all universities are teaching, various faculties, they are all teaching the part of the Jagat. So available this, and it is available for all equations. All science has proven all these things. Anyway, so the very first manifestation of Ishvara is this physical universe, wherein there are various principles, law of gravitation and so many other laws, and our own physical body, etc. Well, this is a manifestation of Ishvara. We call it as a physical order. See, order means basically that is how a given physical object functions. That's it. A physical body functions in a certain way. Another physical object functions in a certain way. There is a principle, right? It's called order. There is a cause-effect relationship. There is a connection between action-reaction. There is a connection between means and end. All this is a part of this universe, and nothing is man-made law. No law, no principle is man-made law. Our taxation law for administration, law for traffic, that's a different thing. I'm talking about this laws, which is a manifestation of Ishvara in form of this universe. So we call it as a physical order. The very first manifestation of Ishvara is a physical order, physical universe, basically. Besides this inert object, there are certain life forms, right? There are life forms on this planet. Well, definitely there is a life, and there can be a life in other in the universe somewhere else also, we don't know. We have a solar family called Sun, and this family, same way there are stars. In our own Milky Way, there are so many stars. Each star is a sun and has its own family. Somewhere in some planet, in other solar families also, there can be a life. And we understand the life the way we understand here. We know for sure, scientists know for sure, what applies here in terms of all laws in a life form applies there. Right? Same law applies. That shows a manifestation is a universal manifestation. All the laws are universal manifestation. That is how we call it as a Ishvara. Anyway, so this is called a biological order. What you study in a biology is Ishvara's mind. What you study in physics is Ishvara's mind. Right? And if you understand it,